It's really fun, man. I get to drink tequila for a living.
And anyone who loved tequila as much as you would be like, hang on, this guy's speaking my language.
I remember the day I had 112 followers on TikTok, and I didn't even know how I had that many followers, and one video went viral, and the next day I had 3,400. And then in about a week I had 10,000, and all of a sudden I was a resource. Because oftentimes we get lost in a pretty bottle, and that's the whole point of them, right? You know, to appeal to the consumer. And
sure.
And my challenge is, how do I get people away from that?
This is Creator, the podcast from Matador Network. I'm your host, Ross Borden, and I believe creators are the future of all global advertising. So join me as I sit down with top creators to hear about how they got started, the challenges they've overcome, and the tips you need to become a full-time creator.
We are back with another episode of Creator, the podcast. Today we have Rob Gerard, who's the founder and CEO of the Tequila Collective. I just threw in CEO because you're the boss, right?
Yeah, I mean, none of those titles really apply, but we can make them up as we go.
So Rob, in my experience, is the number one sort of oracle of drinking tequila and good tequila and tequila education across Instagram, TikTok. And I know your platform and this whole business that you've built around this is sprawling. So we're going to get into all of that. But tell us how it started. What were you doing before this? And I think you started during COVID. Is that right?
Yeah. So I started the content journey end of 2020. Before this all took off, I was selling homes in Los Angeles. I was a realtor. Had a brief stint in insurance and worked in commercial real estate for a little bit. But I was amassing all of these bottles, and one night I said to my wife, I need to document all of these bottles I'm collecting. I think I'll make an Instagram. And she was like, okay, whatever. Didn't really care. I'm going to go back to reading my book. And I created an Instagram, figured I didn't want it to be about me. I didn't plan on ever being in any of the content. I didn't think I would ever even make videos. I thought I was just going to post pictures. And
just photos of tequila bottles.
Yeah, just document the bottles I was going through. With COVID, the only thing that was open were, grocery stores and liquor stores. So I would go and inevitably bring more bottles home. And as I was going through them, I wanted to take a snapshot, capture the memory, maybe write a little description, and hopefully connect with other people to have that human element, that human connection when we were all locked away.
Yeah. And
after a few months of doing that, I realized there's a lot of information that I myself am missing. There's a lot of stuff I want to learn. I felt well, if no one is doing it, then I should do it, because if I feel this way, there's got to be other people who are really wanting to find out information, wanting to learn about tequila, wanting to connect with other people. And that's kind of what spurred me into being in front of the camera and making, at the time, very low quality production videos. Not that anything is much better now, but it all kind of started from there. And I remember the day I had 112 followers on TikTok, and I didn't even know how I had that many followers, and one video went viral, and the next day I had 3,400. And then in about a week I had 10,000, and all of a sudden I was a resource.
And anyone who loved tequila as much as you would be like, hang on, this guy's speaking my language. I want to learn about tequila.
Exactly. And it's just kind of snowballed from there. Man, it's a dream. It's wild. It gives me chills just talking about it, because now I've created a whole business out of it, out of this love for just something that was a hobby before. And I'm so fortunate, but it's really fun, man. I get to drink tequila for a living.
Yeah. I mean, can't get much better than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you were already obviously a tequila obsessed aficionado. It was kind of one of the ways you were getting through the pandemic and a fun thing to do at home.
Yeah.
So then was that the first video that you posted, and then you went viral and you started getting thousands of followers, and then you're like, it's video time, I need to start doing videos?
No, I was posting a few videos here and there, not really knowing what I was doing, not very consistently, but it was not the first hit, that's for sure. It took some trial and error, but it was essentially necessity to document what I was drinking and what I was learning. And this was also the time that this whole additive-free movement was all of a sudden just popping up. Additives had kind of been around in terms of a conversation for a little bit of time, but Tequila Matchmaker, which is an app and a really great resource, all of a sudden had this additive-free confirmation type of program where you could go on the app and see which brands were confirmed additive-free. So that was also starting up in 2020 and 2021. It was starting to gain some momentum. And part of what I did, I think, was just timing it right and having those conversations with the additives and why that was something as a consumer you just wanted to look out for. For everything I do, I approach it as a consumer because I am a consumer.
Yeah.
Like people think I get sent all these bottles for free, which I do, but I also go and spend a lot of money on bottles to this day. Like I literally bought a bottle for $100 yesterday. So everything I do is approaching it from the consumer standpoint, and I wanted to just give out that information as what it's like to be Rob in LA buying bottles.
Well, and there's a lot of like misconceptions. It's pretty much all I drink is mezcal
Nice.
and tequila. So I've been aware of like the additive free stuff. I've learned some things from your videos,
Nice.
but I feel like, and I have a feeling we're going to come back to like what makes a good tequila and what
Sure.
is actual quality tequila. But I feel like a lot of people think that something that is like smooth is good, and a lot of times that's like crap, and it's like sometimes it's really expensive crap too.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, or for those who are interested to learn a little bit, like what is additive free and what are additives in tequila,
Yeah.
and like dive into it, give us a little bit of an education on
Yeah.
that.
So within the tequila industry, you're allowed to use additives. There's no regulation barring them from being used in your tequila. There are four main categories. There's sugar-based syrups or sweeteners, caramel color, which would provide color to replicate spending time in a barrel, that aging effect. Oak extract, which again, replicating time in a barrel, and glycerin, which glycerin is a natural byproduct of the tequila production process, but they can add more to give it that smooth effect.
So all those are bad. Those four things are like not ideal.
It's not ideal. Now, I'm a firm believer, and this is maybe somewhat controversial. I believe in drinking what you like. And that's like one of my little catchphrases is drink what you like, because at the end of the day, I'm going to give you my opinion. I'm going to give you the information, but I'm not going to tell you how to spend your money. If you want to drink tequila with additives, the same way if you want to go to McDonald's and, get a humongous extra large Coke or what, it's your money. I personally don't want to drink tequila with additives. Are they bad? I personally believe so, but they do have their place in the industry. And if that's what you prefer, by all means. Now, the reason I think they're bad is typically you can make a low quality tequila and use those four categories, which encompass a lot of different, oftentimes synthetic type of ingredients, to make your tequila appear better and taste better than it actually should if it didn't have those additives.
Right.
And to me, that lack of transparency, that inferior product that has now been made to look or taste or smell better, to me, that's just not a genuine thing that I want to spend my money on. But again, if that's what you like, then drink what you like.
And you're saying there's a lot of really smoking deals out there of lesser known, additive free, sugar free tequila.
Yeah, it's one of the challenges as a content creator, as someone who just cares about tequila and wants to educate people. This perception of price versus value, and this perception of elegance because of the container that product comes in versus the actual product itself. One of the things that we are always, we being me and my wife, because she is my partner in all this, that we're always mindful of is providing the context and providing the value for the consumer so that they can make educated decisions. Because oftentimes we get lost in a pretty bottle, and that's the whole point of them, right? To appeal to the consumer. And it's they're doing these things for a reason. And my challenge is, how do I get people away from that?
Yeah, it's marketing. It's really good marketing.
It's really good marketing. And as a little creator amongst, these millions, if not billions of dollars worth of brands and marketing behind them, it's a real challenge, but it gives me a lot of opportunity to reach new audiences all the time.
So how did you become like a tequila scholar? Are you just doing research and just like trying everything that you can get your hands on? Or like, how did you like educate yourself about all this stuff?
It's, the thing I get asked a lot is, how did you become an expert? And the thing that I like to make very clear is I am not an expert. The reason I know I'm not an expert is I've been fortunate enough now to make a lot of friends in the industry. People who are actually in Mexico producing the product, master distillers, brand owners, things of that nature. And Tony Sias, who is a good friend of mine, he is the master distiller of a brand called El Tequileno, and they've been around since I think 1958. His family has ancestry that dates back to Jose Cuervo. He is part of the Cuervo family. That's how entrenched they are in the tequila world and the town of Tequila. And I was at the distillery roaming around a couple years ago just by myself, and Tony saw me in his office and he came down and he goes, "Rob, come to the lab with me." Most distilleries have a lab in them. And he goes, "Come to the lab with me. I just learned something." And in that moment of, me being like really entrenched in tequila for, maybe 3 years at this point, I thought to myself, if this guy, Tony, he's
already a master.
He's a master distiller. He's got just decades of knowledge that I will never have. And he's got this whole family lineage. If he is just learning something, I know nothing. So I try to tell people that story because I am on this journey as much as anybody else who watches my content. And I think that's really important because I am just a regular guy. And I say all that to answer your question. I learned a lot of this just because I fell deeply in love with tequila. I had already loved Mexico. My wife is partly Mexican. I love the Mexican culture. And for me, it was a lot of Googling, a lot of reaching out to people via social media. What does this mean? How does this work? What does this do? Like, what is the process that you're using? So it was a lot of just, communicating with the brands directly, relying on a few other people who, they were like me, just more knowledgeable at the time, or still more knowledgeable today, but just big fans of tequila. And it's a communal effort. You'll never know everything. But I feel like if we're in it all together, just trying to learn more and trying to understand more, like that's eventually you end up knowing a good amount, I think. And that's kind of where I am now, knowing a good amount.
One thing I have, obviously I've drank a lot of tequila. I love trying different tequilas. When I'm in Mexico, which I think of as my second home, I love going to Mexico, a few times a year. I've never been to Tequila Mexico.
Go.
So
you gotta go.
This is, Matador is a travel publication, travel brand. So I want to talk about the travel part of this. And I would imagine it sounds like you've gotten now invited down by some of the brands, the master distillers. So tell us about drinking tequila through a travel lens and maybe some of your favorite trips and distilleries that you visited.
Mexico is a magical place. The first time I ever went to Mexico was typical Cabo all-inclusive resort. And I remember going and thinking, wow, this is so cool. This is so exotic and foreign. And then you go to Jalisco and you fly into Guadalajara, and you take the 1.5-hour drive to the town of Tequila, or the opposite direction to the highlands, where the town of Arandas, which is pretty much like the main tequila producing town in the highlands of Jalisco, is located.
So for people like me who want to go and experience all this, I'm sure you've gotten special access. If the master distiller is inviting you into their lab, not everyone's going to get that kind of experience, but what would you recommend? Are there some specific, distillery experiences or farm experiences that you would recommend, where you really get to understand the whole process?
Yeah. So we actually do tours now. We started hosting tours a couple of years ago because we were getting so many questions about it. But
tell me about that. I want to hear about
so the tours came about. I was getting so many DMs. How do I go to Mexico? How do I plan a trip? Which distilleries do I go to? And to answer part of your question, I was, typing back, you got to go to the town of Tequila. You fly into Guadalajara. You got to find transportation. Good luck with that. Stay at this hotel and visit the Fortaleza distillery, visit the Cascaouin distillery, visit the Arete distillery, and just listing a bunch.
Arete. Arete is one of my favorites.
Yeah, they're a great brand. And they're good friends of mine now, and I love those guys. To answer your question, I was getting all these DMs, and I was trying to do my best to just give people the bare bones of what to go visit in terms of distilleries. But then I'd get messages back hey, we couldn't get into the distillery, or we ended up not going because we just didn't know how to get to Tequila. We couldn't find transportation. And I said to my wife, after so many months of this, why don't we just plan a trip?
Opportunity.
Yeah. Why don't we plan a trip? We, at this point we had contacts. We knew what hotels to stay at, what distilleries to visit. A friend of mine owns a travel company in Guadalajara, so I contacted her to,
Perfect.
Help me with an itinerary and set up transportation from the airport to the hotel and all that kind of stuff. And we did our first trip, and it was the scariest thing I think I've ever done, being responsible for 6 other adults. But it was incredible. And
so you just had 6 guests.
Yeah.
And then you and your wife went?
Yeah. And we went, and I was so nervous. We felt responsible for these strangers. They were strangers. We didn't know who they were. And it was really daunting, like the logistical challenges. I'm not a tour guide. I had been to Mexico at this point maybe 10 times to visit different distilleries. So I felt comfortable, but I didn't know how these people would feel. I didn't know what these personalities would be like, if they were expecting to like rage in the town of Tequila and just get drunk. Like, I had no idea. But
especially travel, you don't know if someone's going to be a pain in the ass or need a lot of hand holding,
exactly,
or if the group's going to jive.
Exactly. But we got so lucky, and everybody was on the same page. They all wanted to learn. They were all big tequila fans to varying degrees, and they were all really chill, and we all got along, and it was super fun. And when I realized that it was successful was when we were driving in the van back to Guadalajara to like end our trip, and they all said, "Can we do this again? Can we go on another trip with you?" And I looked at my wife and I was like, "Do you think we could do this again?"
You're like, and our travel company was born.
Yeah, and she was like, "I don't see why not." So
yeah, it's awesome.
It's wild. So now I think we've done 4 group trips. It's not something, we're not a travel company, so it's at like when we have the time to do it.
Yeah.
But that's one of the most rewarding things we do, because it gives me the ability to take other mostly gringos like myself to really experience Mexico and really immerse themselves in the culture and really understand the work that goes into tequila and the cultural importance and just the beauty of a country that we're really not in tune with in a lot of ways as people who live in the United States. Mexico is often viewed in a way that I don't typically like. The number one question I get about Mexico is it safe?
Yeah.
And I've felt more safe there than I have in big cities here in the United States.
Totally.
But to have the privilege to give people that opportunity and take them to Mexico and experience the beauty of it, and also be fortunate enough to, have that as part of my business and make a little bit of money so I can pay my bills. Like, it's the best. It's just amazing. I feel so
when's
fortunate.
The next trip? And I'm asking for myself and everyone out there, but I'm sold, dude. I want to come down and check it out.
So the next trip, we're thinking January or February of 2026, because again, it just has to go along with our schedules.
Sure.
And we're getting pretty busy. I mean, along with the content, we have a whole marketing company, which I didn't tell you about.
Yeah, well, I want to get into that because I want to understand like your whole platform that you built. So, and I love how organic this whole thing happened, where you were like, love tequila, posting photos, then videos, then I'm sure brands start reaching out. So give me an idea of like the full platform at this point of the Tequila Collective.
Yeah, so the Tequila Collective is basically like our umbrella. And in it, we have the Tequila Collective, which is the social media channels. We do in-person tasting events. This past weekend, I hosted a festival. We had 250 guests come and try a bunch of different tequila brands. We had about 20 different brands.
Amazing. Is that in LA?
Yeah, that was in Pasadena.
Cool.
We try to do that about once, sometimes twice a year. It's pretty incredible. We could do a bigger event, but we just don't have the venue size to do it. Mm-hmm. But it's amazing to see all the turnout that we get and people's interest in quality tequila. We do the trips, of course. But yeah, so those are all things under the Tequila Collective umbrella. But then I've started recognizing just opportunities as they've come about. And as brands were reaching out to me, they had no idea how to communicate with a content creator. They would message me and go, "Hey, we want to send you a bottle." And I would say, "Cool, now what?" And they were like, "Well, we thought you could do something with it. What do you want me to do?"
Maybe you could make a full video about it.
And I'd be
a free
like,
bottle of tequila.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm happy to promote any brand. I have 2 rules. If a brand is one that I like and one that's additive free, I will do a free video for it. But the reality of content creation and marketing in general is a 30-second video that shows up anywhere one time doesn't do much for your brand. So I started to say to brands, yes, I can work with you and I can be, one of the content creators you work with. Mm-hmm. But I'm seeing that you're struggling communicating with me. And if you're struggling with just me, I know you're struggling with everybody.
The consumer, yeah.
Let me help you build out a marketing presence that is geared towards social media content. I recognize this need, and my wife, who is far smarter and better at everything than I am and prettier than I am, and she was surprisingly very good at managing these brands and instructing them how to go about not only dealing with me, but dealing with other content creators and creating a message for their brand that would resonate across different platforms, different creators' platforms, and on their social media channels. So
you started like a tequila agency almost.
So we've started essentially a marketing agency, a marketing company. So we actively do stuff from creating the content for specific brands to creating influencer campaigns essentially, and reaching out and sending people product to review on their channels. And we do a variety of things on that side of our business now, which is all under the Tequila Collective, but that's its own separate business as well, called Mave. This is a lot of work that I don't think people often realize. It's not, hey, I'm at the liquor store, 5 seconds of filming and here's your viral video. Mm-hmm. It's a lot more than that. But if all of this failed, tomorrow, I would consider it a success first and foremost. And then I'd just go back to the rest of my very normal, happy life.
You've got the trips.
Mm-hmm.
You've got brand deals with tequila brands
Mm-hmm.
who you do like, who
Yep.
you're going to feature on your channel.
Yep.
You have the festival.
Mm-hmm.
You have other tasting, sipping events.
Yep.
And then you have the marketing agency.
Yeah.
What are how do you rank those in terms of what actually pays the bills?
The marketing agency pays the bills.
Marketing agency is bigger than all of them.
Yeah, for a while it was the content creation and the partnership deals, mm-hmm. and that's still a good chunk. And maybe it's just being so busy with all these different facets, I've maybe taken my foot off the pedal a little bit with that. But I don't want people to think that the reason a bottle is featured on my page is because they paid me. I never want that to be the case, because the truth is, whether a brand has paid me or not, if it's a good quality product and I like it, it's going to be featured at some point.
Right.
What I tell people now is what brands pay for is ad space. So if you as a brand came to me and said, hey, we love what you do, this is our budget, what can this get us? I can say, I can feature your product twice a month for the next 3 months. And that means you've got 6 ad spots that you otherwise wouldn't have had, because I would have done my one review for free, and we would have just kept moving on to the next thing that I felt needed to be featured.
You're not going to review the same tequila twice, over and over.
But if you've got 4 expressions, you got Blanco through Extra Añejo, and you want to see that featured over the next few months, and you have a budget to pay me, I'll gladly feature it. Otherwise, you're paying for time slots, and if you don't have the money, I'll get to you when I get to you, and I'm happy to promote anything that I think is worth promoting. But that's on my time.
But the breakthrough moment for the business of this was that you saw that they were having trouble even communicating with you, and you're like, they need help with sort of agency content strategy work for social.
Exactly. The thing that I think people don't often understand or even know about the tequila industry is it's a lot of mom and pop business. It's not it's not like vodka. It's not like whiskey, where these are huge conglomerates. Yes, there are the huge conglomerates in the tequila space, but there are also people, gathering up as much money as they can from, just their day job, family, friends, getting however much money they need together to design a label, get a generic glass bottle, buy agave, and contract a distillery to make their liquid for them. Mm-hmm. And the barrier to entry, I guess, is a lot smaller on the tequila side, but oftentimes, these folks starting the brand, they don't have, the knowledge of how do we get our product now that it's actually in a bottle in front of the masses. And that's where we come in, because we can do it at a much smaller cost than if you were to go and, make a television commercial or get,
Right.
you know, a ton of billboards or something like that.
And not everyone loves tequila, but everyone who follows you probably loves tequila. So it's
I hope so.
It's the
Yeah.
right demo, right audience.
Exactly.
All right, so let's try some of these. I want to hear about them. I know Fortaleza, obviously,
Okay.
one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I've noticed when I go to Mexico, and I always ask the Mexican, especially the bartenders, like, what's your favorite tequila? That's how I got introduced to Arete.
Yeah.
I tend to think Mexicans, the Fortaleza is like number one for them, like for the people I've talked to.
Yeah. So Fortaleza is very difficult to come by just because they are producing at basically the most inefficient way possible. And they can only produce so much in this tiny distillery in the heart of tequila. The background with Fortaleza, it was started by a man, Guillermo Erickson Souza. He is the 5th generation Souza tequila producer, and Souza is obviously a very big name in the tequila industry. Guillermo's intention with the brand, which started around 25 years ago, I believe, was to just adhere to all the traditions that his grandfathers before him were adhering to. So his intention is not to be the biggest brand in terms of volume. It's to be the most traditionally made, best quality that they can put out. The other brand I brought 2 bottles from one of my other favorite brands, Tapatio. And Tapatio is one of those brands where if you know, you know, but most people, when they hear it, they think of the hot sauce.
The hot sauce, yeah.
Completely different company.
Well, I don't know, so break it down.
Yeah,
Tapatio.
so Tapatio is made up in the highlands of Jalisco,
Okay.
Near a town called Arandas. And Arandas and the highlands in general is known for agave that is typically sweeter, a little bit more fruity, floral types of profiles, where the Tequila Valley, where the town of Tequila is known for more earthy, vegetal types of flavor and aroma profiles in their tequila.
Interesting.
We can go down a bunch of rabbit holes.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to learn. I love it.
Yep.
All right, well, these bottles have been sitting here way too long for us not to be sipping in tequila yet. So
I'll let you pick if you want to pick which one we start with.
let's start with the Tapatios.
Okay, so
Those are both Tapatios, right?
yes, so I'm going to start with the Extra Añejo. This is a really sought after bottle. You really don't see these bottles that often anymore here in the States. They're even hard to get in Mexico. Extra Añejos need to be aged in an oak barrel for a minimum of 3 years. And the barrel cannot be larger than 600 liters. The most commonly used barrel is ex-bourbon or American oak barrels. As you may know, when you age a whiskey in an oak barrel, you can only use that barrel once. And after that, the barrel is useless to the bourbon industry.
So then it goes down to Mexico and is reused for tequila.
Exactly. Or to Scotland.
interesting.
So a lot of Scotch is actually aged in ex-bourbon as well.
So this is high proof. This is 110.
So this is an 80 proof.
Okay.
But it's an Extra Añejo, meaning it's been aged for a minimum of 3 years. Some distilleries, they have, they say, we're going to age it for 5 years, and at 5 years we pull it out. And others, they age it for a minimum of 3 years, and if it's ready, they pull it out. And if they don't think it's ready, they let it sit for a little bit longer. Tapatio is pretty much that. I think on average, this is about a 4-year age. But if it was ready a little earlier, they'll pull it. If it takes a little longer, they'll pull it then. But this is one of my favorite bottles. And that's the most common question I get is, what is your favorite? I really don't have an answer for it, but this would be one of them if there was a top 5, let's say.
Okay. Which coming from you, yeah, it means a lot. So you've tried a lot more tequilas than I have.
Maybe.
So
it
this
means
is
something.
top 5. This is an Extra Añejo, and it's
Hopefully that's not
additive-free.
too much.
Of course, no, it's definitely not too much. Salud. Thanks for coming.
Salud. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for bringing the tequila. Oh, yeah, it's really good.
It is really good. The thing that I think people often associate tequila with is that experience in college of, the big brands, the Cuervo Gold, the
People are like,
Hornitos,
I had a bad experience with tequila.
and they haven't touched it since.
Yeah.
But when you get your hands on something good, not necessarily this particular bottle even, but just something of good quality, you don't have that burn where you're arched over and really feeling it. You don't have that sensory overload. You have really apparent beautiful, complex flavors that come through. So something like this, I get chocolate and cinnamon and like a tropical fruit like banana or plantain. Sometimes the most beautiful liquid comes in the plainest of bottles, and this is certainly one of them.
Yeah, that's really amazing. Love that one. Okay. And then what about this Tapatio?
So this Tapatio, this is Tapatio 110. This is their high proof. Again, the highest proof a tequila can be is 110 or 55% ABV. And the reason I brought this one is because this is one of the go-tos in my house. My wife and I go through a lot of these bottles because not only is it great to sip on, but you can make a drink with it. You can take shots if that's what you're into. And my wife loves to just make a nice drink at the end of the week. And I love to sip on this because it has a little bit of an extra punch to it. It is a little hotter. So hopefully you're prepared now that we've got your palate ready with the other bottle. It's not going to blow your socks off. It's not the most complex, romantic tequila in the world, but it's very, very good and has multiple utilities.
It definitely does. It definitely smells different than just a normal Blanco.
With the higher proof, it typically means that there's less water added or no water added. Every distillery operates a little bit differently. So, some distilleries, they'll distill to 55%, and then to make their 40% just typical Blanco, they'll add enough water to get it down to that proof. Some will then bottle it at 55%. Some, like the next one we'll try, the Fortaleza, they distill to 46% or thereabout, so they're not adding any water when they bottle their still strength, and they're only adding a little bit of water when they bottle their 40% Blanco.
So you're better at me than like explaining the notes of this. How would you describe this flavor right here?
To me, it's very citrus forward. I get a lot of like lime zest on it.
Yeah.
There's a vegetal component. I don't think a lot of people realize the misconception for agave is that it's a cactus. It's not related to cactus. It's more of a succulent. Mm-hmm. But agave is closely related to asparagus, actually. And when they flower, you have, at the end of its life, you have
the giant tower,
the stalk that comes out of the center of the agave. That's called a quiote, and it basically resembles a enormous asparagus. Agave is harvested before then, and sometimes what they'll do even is if the quiote starts to grow, they'll chop it off, essentially castrating the agave, and
because it's stealing all the sugar, the good stuff that the bats, I would assume, are attracted to.
Exactly.
Crazy.
So that's what you need for
the
tequila.
Bees and the bats, people.
Yeah.
We gotta defend them.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly. I've learned a lot on this session. I love it. So, all right, let's try the Fortaleza.
So this is again one of my favorite bottles. This actually has a little tag that comes on it. Normally they don't have these little tags, but the tag explains exactly what this is. This is lot 20 still strength. One of the really cool things that I find about Fortaleza is they number all of their different batches or their lots. And lot 20 was a special batch made with agave directly from the fields on the property where the distillery is. The Fortaleza distillery is in the town. It's in the town of Tequila. They have, I think, roughly around 40 acres, which is quite a bit of property.
For the whole brand, 40 acres doesn't seem like that much to me.
Well, so that's the thing. They don't produce all their agave. They source their agave from other farmers because it isn't enough.
Right.
When you have a life cycle of 6 or 7 years to grow agave, that's not enough land to be producing agave. But for this particular batch, they used agave only from the property at the distillery. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just because of that particular agave that they got from their own property. I don't know if it's just the romantic nature of Fortaleza and this story that I just told briefly. Mm-hmm. But to me, this is one of my favorite bottles and probably my most favorite high proof.
So tell us one more time, what is the full name of this tequila? Because it's not just the Blanco. But
so this is the Fortaleza Still Strength Blanco, lot 20, or Lote 20.
Okay.
20, if you want to really speak
Lote
Spanish.
20.
All of the toppers, I'll let you even hold it if you'd like. All of these toppers are made by hand at the distillery.
Is this ceramic?
So it's a resin And when you visit Ross, they have their topper factory above Guillermo's office, actually. And they use a resin. They put the resin into the mold, and it comes out looking like a piña, the heart of an agave. Mm-hmm. They then paint it all green, and then they sand it off to expose the white resin, and then they glue on the natural cork. I think Fortaleza is one of the best brands. Is it the best? That's for you to decide.
Yeah,
but all of these things together, it's hard to beat that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of just amazing things going on. There's a lot of great stories to tell, and you can find a story in a bottle, or you can find it in the distillery. But there's a lot happening.
Rob, congrats on everything. Congrats on living the dream, literally.
Thank you.
And I say you guys go after gin next, and I will be on one of your trips.
Thank you.
Very soon.
Salute, I appreciate it.
Salute.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Creator, the podcast, is produced by Matador Network. We are a leading global travel publisher focused on travel and adventure. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe. Every week, I interview a new top creator. New episodes are released every Tuesday on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere podcasts are found. Thanks for listening.